It's live.
We're fucking live.
We're live.
We're live. We're live.
Fun.
Look who it is. The dynamic, the deadly, the delightful, the delicious duo of Julie Deng and Kathryn Zissou. How are you guys doing?
We are awesome. Thank you
Hey,
for
how are
having
you?
us this morning, Anubhav, or I guess your evening.
Yeah, my morning.
Very
So
early.
Julie, you're in Atlanta, right?
I am in Atlanta, suburbs.
And where's Kathryn?
I'm in California. I'm in Long Beach now.
So when did you move to California? Was it recently?
Yeah, a year and a half ago. It's last January.
Okay, so it's been some time.
Yeah,
Right.
I've been here. Yeah, just not making any friends, having a wild, boring time.
A day in the life of Kathryn Zissou.
Yeah.
But that's good. That's good news. Only because now we can actually compare and contrast New York and California as well, right?
That's
in
true.
so many ways, very different.
I think I can
And
bust
given
some
the-
stereotypes.
Exactly. And given the fact that, I mean, you would consider yourself a New Yorker, right? Born and brought up in New York?
Right. Yeah, I'm a Long Islander, so
Long
just Long
Island,
Island
exactly.
trash.
but close enough to New York City, right?
Yeah,
So
I
I
was
feel-
talking to my mom about this beforehand. She says hello and that she always thinks of you on Thanksgiving.
I think of Auntie as well. Sally, see, I remember her name as well.
We all love Sally.
I convey my regards. I convey my regards to Steve as well, to Uncle,
Are
aka
they
Uncle.
watching us?
And
Will they
to-
watch
to
us?
Mike as well. Are they watching us?
I don't know if they even know what YouTube is, so they'll be
Well,
mad at
send
me.
them the videos.
But you
and then-
can share the link with them, can't you?
I can, yeah. This will be
Yeah,
up
I
after
want to
it's
say
live,
hi
right?
to them.
Is Mike watching
Sally and
us? Is your
Steve.
brother watching us?
I don't know. He hasn't texted me this morning either. I mean, it's only 8:30 here, so and he lives here, so that could
Understood. But Kathryn, how do you feel right now? Are you nervous? Are you excited? A bit of
I'm
both? More
nervous.
nervousness than excitement? More excitement than nervousness?
I'm both nervous and excited. Haven't I don't know how locked down you guys are in India, because we are pretty locked down, so I haven't really been. And I mean, I guess we're less locked down, but I choose to not do anything. So I work from home and I really don't see anybody. So it's kind of nice to, talk to
No,
friends.
I'm not
Atlanta, we're basically open.
I'm not talking about your nervousness with regard to the lockdown. Your nervousness for the live stream.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like the excitement because I never socially interact anymore is
I see.
making me
I see.
more
Not
excited.
even virtually though. Not even virtually though.
Not that I feel like everyone did a lot at the beginning and now not so much.
Look, honestly, I'm jobless. Okay, I have all the
Okay.
time in the world. I think this could be the genesis of perhaps the rekindling of the relationship. We could perhaps have virtual conversations frequently from now on. What do you
Yeah,
say?
You've been promising me a virtual catch up for months.
I think isn't this the first time that we're actually having a conversation since I left
yeah.
your unholy land for my
Yes.
holy motherland?
Yes, 'cause you always promise me that we're gonna catch up and then we don't.
It's the other way around. It's the other way around. I'm always available. I always text you, Julie. Hey, Julie, I'm free right now. I can do whenever you want to do. But I never get a response from Julie.
Typical.
Yeah. But listen, look, talking about New York City, right? We've all spent a fair bit of time in New York. In the caption of the video, I called the two of you accomplices, or former NYC accomplices, spent a fair bit of time there. Overall, right, I thought, to sum up, right, I thought the highs were very high in New York, but the lows were also very low.
I can see that.
But look, we can kick things off with Julie because I have a post of hers. I was stalking her on Instagram and I saw this post. This was, hold on, wait a minute. This should be in front. Give me a second. Let me hide you guys for a second. Okay. So that's what I saw. Julie, you mentioned very explicitly that you really missed New York City, or when you were leaving, you would really miss New York City, right?
Yeah.
So tell me, what do you miss about the city?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing is the aspect of how New York never sleeps. So I now live in the suburbs of Atlanta. It's very different. So it's very quiet. We sleep at night. There's no ambulances that go by, but sometimes that's what you miss. You want to feel the action a little bit more, especially now when we don't get very many social interactions. So in New York, you really can't avoid getting social interactions. You walk out the door and there's people left and right. And sometimes you want to see them and sometimes you don't. But that's the beauty of New York. Yeah.
And Casey, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, I miss it a lot too. I think, obviously I miss like my parents, especially now because I can't go see them. But, I feel like I feel the same way as like here. I know, I feel like everyone says that people in California are more friendly, but I kind of disagree. Like I feel like people here are kind of mean. But it's like, I mean, I live in Long Beach. Like it's technically, I live like in a city, but it's still it's like not very dense. And because even like the dense parts of LA, I feel like are pretty, like LA is very like suburban physically, so I kind of have all the ambulance noises and stuff now, but none of like when I go for a walk, there's like nobody there. So
yeah, in New York, it's like you go outside and there's like shops and restaurants and bars, and I had like probably 20 different like ethnicities of food like right outside my door, which is awesome. But here, we have Southern food and Southern food, so that's great.
And like Panda Express, maybe.
Panda's good though. I like Panda.
Yeah, I feel like
I love Panda Express. That's what I survived on in college.
Anubhav's favorite. We have Taco Bell.
Taco Bell and Panda Express, exactly. I can end up working out for the next 20 years of my life, but I still won't lose those tires that I accumulated in college because of Taco Bell.
The Taco Bell.
Exactly.
If you ever need to find Anubhav, just go to the nearest Taco Bell.
Taco Bell, two cheesy gordita crunches, $5.38.
I start ordering the cheesy gordita crunches because of you, and now I order it every time I go to Taco Bell, which is like once a year. But
that's probably like the best item that you have there. Like in terms of, if you look at the ratio of taste to price, that maximizes cheesy gordita crunches maximizes that ratio.
Well, the price is pretty low. The denominator is very small there.
Exactly, Julie. Exactly. But I still remember, I still remember this one time in college. I mean, since I used to get Taco Bell nearly every single day, I still remember going for lunch, and instead of getting a cheesy gordita crunch with beans, I got a cheesy gordita crunch with beef. And so I'm vegetarian, right? So that's the first time that I actually tried beef. So I came back to the library to the third floor. But it was good. It was tasty though. I liked it very much. My stomach had like a burning sensation for a bit of time because it was the first time in like 24 years that that beef entered my stomach. But it was fairly tasty though. Fairly tasty. But that reminds me. Look, one of the reasons why I've lost weight is not because of the exercise that I've been doing, but only because I've been very depressed recently. Because I remember in July of 2018, both of you promised me that you guys would come to India in the very near future. And since then, I've been waiting at my doorstep every single day. My mother tells me,
Anubhav, to go this year.
Anubhav, please come in, have some food. And I keep telling my mother, no, I'm waiting for Kathryn right now. I'm waiting for Julie right now. I'll only have food with them. And it's been more than 2 years and I'm still waiting.
Anubhav, I promised you this year was supposed to be the year. I had the timeline already ready in December, but guess what? COVID. So
yeah, I would be like, we could come, but who knows when we'll be allowed to leave the country.
I could go on my Canadian passport probably.
You should do it. You can sneak them in.
I mean, your US passport should work as well, right?
We can't go anywhere right now.
Yeah. Is India letting us in? I mean, I don't know if
I don't think India is letting us in.
You aren't allowed to leave the country?
No, we're allowed to leave the country. We're not. No country is really letting us in.
Most countries aren't letting American citizens in.
We have, I think, less than like a handful of countries that will let us in, and I don't make sense.
But my sister can still come back in though. But I'm guessing she's an Indian citizen.
If you are Indian, they can't really stop her from coming back home.
It makes sense. But for some reason, she's still in the US right now on the West Coast doing some road trip of hers. And my mother and I, we've been badgering her to come back, but she doesn't want to come back. It's been more than like 2 years or 3 years since she got back to India. Yeah.
Well, the West Coast is so nice. I wouldn't come back either.
Decent place, right? How's the weather there?
I've never been to India, so we can't say.
That's true.
Yeah. How's the weather there right now on the West Coast? Decent?
Yeah, we had, the fires were bad. Not so much near me, but for like 2 weeks, it was just like smoky and there was no sun. So that kind of sucked, but it's getting better now. It's like kind of cloudy right now because it's still the morning, but it's back to 75 and sunny every day. So that's the one positive, I guess. The having the smoke from the fires was definitely like really just like a stressful reminder, like constantly. But now it's nice.
But look, whenever India is allowing people in, you guys are welcome. I remember telling you guys that time as well. It's going to be all expense paid, right? So your fooding is taken care of. Your lodging is taken care of. Transportation, everything. So if there's any way in which I can further sweeten the deal, let me know.
Your presence is enough.
Yeah, that's
My
true. You
presence
wouldn't
enough.
even need to.
Thank you. But Casey, look, you're in California right now, right?
Yeah.
In many ways, very different compared to New York. We spoke about how New York hustling, bustling, great for someone who's an adrenaline junkie, especially someone like me. But what do you make of California? I've spent time in California. I did an internship in California, in San Jose, went to visit San
Right.
Francisco as well a couple of times. Of course, a very different vibe compared to what the vibe is like in New York City. But my experience is only minimal, so I can't really, come up with definitive conclusions here. But what do you make of it, having spent like a fair bit of time in New York and having spent a fair bit of time in California now?
Yeah. So kind of much like New York, like I also have family here because my mom's from California. So I do have kind of like a little bit different, I feel like, vibe because I go and hang out with like my aunt and my grandma. But
okay, but your grandma's cool.
Grandma
Betsy is the bomb.com.
She'd be pissed that we brought that up on this. But yeah, I think that like I've just found that, well, first of all, okay, I hate driving. So the fact that I have to drive everywhere here is like a big problem for me personally, and probably not a problem for everybody. But I feel like one of my favorite things about New York is like when you go out for the night, like you go to bars, like you end up talking to like anybody, like you have conversations with people you thought you'd never meet, like from all around the world. Like people are very, like I feel like when people are like going to work, stuff like that in New York, they're like focused, like this is what I have to do. But when they're like having fun, they're like the funnest people, the nicest people. But here I feel like even in non-social situations, people are just kind of mean. Like they're not that friendly here. Like I almost, maybe it's like a surface level friendliness but in New York, I feel like I've had such like weird conversations with people that I don't know. Like people just let their weirdness out in New York, where here they're maybe a little more reserved, and I feel like I'm a little bit weird, so it worked for me better. But here, there's just not that like kind of fun connection with people, I think.
Which is very interesting, because a lot of people talk about the fact that New Yorkers are slightly crude, they're slightly unfriendly, they're slightly aggressive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people might think of perhaps like the other side of America, perhaps like the West Coast, as being the friendlier coast. But you're saying that's a myth, and you're debunking that myth right now.
I personally think it's a myth. I do think Northern California versus Southern California is different, so I can only speak to Southern California, and I'm not even like in like LA that much. So I don't want anyone to be pissed at me about it. And I think also just being like from New York, like having my parents be just very like sarcastic and like blunt and weird is like, I'm used to like people being, sort of that like tell it like it is. Like New Yorkers are like, but here maybe they're a little bit, I don't know, soft.
But there's also like a fundamental difference between, say, what the demeanor of someone is, say at night when they're going out, versus what the demeanor might be, say, in the morning during rush hour, say at 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, right?
Yeah, very true. Definitely New York.
Exactly. Because I still remember in New York, when I got there for the first time, this was August 6th, 2011. So my parents and I, we had like a short vacation in New York before starting college. So college began on the 22nd of August, 2011. That was the fall semester. 6th of August is when I landed, because I still have that stamp on my passport. So I'll always remember that date.
So cute.
And I remember getting there, and this was this one, of course, this is like a one-off, right? So I'm not generalizing here, but I was at the subway station and asking someone how I can get to a specific location. And that's when that person just pointed at the map saying, there's a map right there. So I felt that was slightly aggressive, but of course, when I'm asking a question to someone who's probably in a rush to get to office at 9 o'clock in the morning, I could probably end up, I won't say I deserve that answer, but it wouldn't surprise me if someone does end up getting that answer. Right. Yeah. Us Indians, on the other hand, though, we're friendlier. I mean, look, Georgia Tech has lots of Indians. So your experiences with Indians. Your take on Indians, Julie?
My take on Indians. Okay. Great times had by all. Georgia Tech had quite a few Indians, as you said. I've also worked with a lot of Indians. Very much appreciate the food. Had lots of Indian food. Great food, great people. You one of them. But yeah, overall, I think Indian culture is very similar to like Chinese culture or just Asian culture in general. Very family oriented, a little bit more hierarchical than Americans are. So a little bit more respect for elders and like a very strong community feeling. So I think in many ways, I really like working with, hanging out with Indian folks because I just feel like we come from similar backgrounds, have similar goals of, societal success and bringing pride to the family and things like that. So that's good. And then of course, I do love the American Indians who, want to rebel a little bit. They're always a little fun. So Anubhav, I know, we've had
I love them too.
Those nights in New York.
Which nights are you referring to?
Let's just say ones that don't need to be on the internet.
But give me a hint. I still don't remember.
Well, that might be the problem.
Speaking of these quote unquote memorable nights, some of these nights in New York were so memorable that a memory also fails us. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think our first year in New York, it was just constantly eating out, drinking, having fun. Every night it was like we would text each other and be like, what are you up to? And then we'd just hop on to the nearest bar and then who knows? We always end up having fun.
It used to be the same cycle on repeat every single weekend. You get done with work at say 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., right? On a Friday night. You got absolutely smashed Friday night. You wake up around noon on a Saturday with probably 3 slices of pizza right next to you. You spend until 6 p.m. on a Saturday nursing your hangover and promising yourself that you're never going to do what you did on Friday night. Then come 7 p.m. as soon as your hangover is slightly recovered, right? You're like,
right back at it.
Let me go all out tonight as well. Same thing Saturday night. We wake up Sunday morning, this time perhaps with 2 slices of pizza because you can't afford as many on Saturday night. And then you wake up on a Sunday and that's when you're cursing all your decisions, regretting all your actions, telling yourself this will never happen. And then come the following weekend, it's the same cycle. So it's a constant cycle of regret and repeat, regret and repeat, regret and repeat.
Yes, for sure. Definitely the you can't afford part because those drinks do not come cheap in New York. Yeah. And then since I was traveling on Monday mornings, usually for work, there was no recovery. That was terrible. Waking up to make a flight at like 3 or 4 a.m. after a fun weekend
that must have sucked.
Not fun.
Yeah. But which is why this might sound very cheesy, but in Empire State of Mind, when Jay-Z says, "If I can make it here, I can make it anywhere," I actually feel there's a lot of truth to that statement. Not because, for a couple of different reasons. One of them could be the fact that, of course, New York ends up attracting the best of talent, right? So if you're working with the best of people, the best of colleagues, and you're actually doing as well, if not better than they are, then you know that you're perhaps a cut above the rest, right? So that gives you a lot of confidence, and you can that can prop up your self-belief, whatever your performance is. But even if you're earning like a decent amount of money in New York, it can be hard to make both ends meet. The prices are through the roof, food prices, rent is through the roof. I still remember when I was interning, this was in January of 2016, right after graduation. I was doing like a 4-week winter internship. This was at Goldman. I was living in Chinatown, a shoebox fucking apartment in Chinatown. It was horrible. Absolutely.
Y'all online horrible. Do not want to see the conditions Anubhav was living.
No. You came to my Lexington Street apartment, right? That was like 23rd Street in Lexington.
Yeah. And
that was
Curry Hill, on Curry Hill.
That was palatial compared to the Chinatown apartment that I was living in.
God. You guys do not want to know where Anubhav was living.
I've never been there, but yeah, I heard stories that it was not great.
Let's just say he wasn't lying about the leftover pizza.
That's true. That's true. That's true. I mean,
How
look,
is
I'm
it compared to like cost of living in India?
So if I had to find like a direct comparison to New York,
Yeah.
I'd probably say it's Bombay as a city, like
Yeah.
fairly expensive as a city.
Uh-huh.
I think Bombay is like a good combination of style as well as substance, and I think
Uh-huh.
in many ways New York is similar as well. You have both the style, the razzmatazz, the pomp, but you also have the substance in New York. Bombay is fairly expensive, but at the same time, of course, if you do a direct comparison or a direct conversion from USD to INR, the rent in India is much, much cheaper. But at the
Right.
same
Yeah.
time, your salaries are lower as well. Similarly, by the same token, your salaries in New York are much higher as well, proportionately. But Bombay, that way, if you're living in South Bombay, that's like you living in perhaps in Manhattan, like prime Manhattan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even though the salary is higher in New York, I still feel like it's not enough to make, ends meet oftentimes. Like, even though I was making more when I was living in New York, I still feel like most of us were struggling, even though we had, pretty good paying jobs comparatively, because we were working in investment banking, consulting, whatever. It was still tight on money.
Yeah, I feel like places in New York too, like especially for like younger people like graduated, like they don't have to pay you more because people want to come to New York. And then I'm sure they're also wasting our money a lot too. So there's that.
That is one thing I love living in a lower cost of living city like Atlanta. For quite literally a third of the price, I have a full apartment to myself. Whereas in New York, I was living with my boyfriend and a roommate, and our apartment was probably half the size. Roommates that's one thing in New York. Everybody is always either coming or going. So roommates are always coming or going. So I can't even count on one hand how many roommates I had in my last apartment in New York. I was living there for 2 years, and I think I had like 5 or 6 roommates at the time. It's tough you meet a lot of people, but it's tough to get close because people are always in and out. And we have great people like you guys who, we stay connected, and obviously we'll be friends for quite some time to come.
But I think, I mean, Julie talked about this, Kathryn talked about this as well. I think that's one of the reasons. I mean, even if you could be earning like a decent amount of money, right? But the fact that it's still hard, I think that's one of the reasons why you can actually mature a fair bit as well if you're living in New York City, especially coming out of college, right? I mean, you're still, in a way, somewhat of a dependent in college. You're still just trying to perhaps figure out how you want to get a job, but you aren't trying to optimize for life as such, right? It's only when you come out of college that you're actually like thinking about life as such, as opposed to, focusing on how exactly you can get a job. And so I think the lessons that the city teaches you can really, and harsh lessons, more often than not, can really help you in perhaps becoming a lot more mature and having a more mature perspective on life as well. I'll give you a very simple example, right? So this was when I was still in college. So my junior year in college, I was interning with PwC, summer of 2014. And I remember this was about June of 2014. Between the end of the spring semester and the start of the summer internship, right? I had like a 2-week break. So I was back in India. I was just chilling back in India. And then I took the flight from India. I landed in New York. And I remember my mother giving me a new wallet, and she giving me 25 very crisp $100 bills. Okay, so I had $2,500 in my wallet. I hope my mother's not watching because she still doesn't know what the story is. $2,500 in a new wallet, decent wallet, and I have it with me. And my mother told me multiple times before leaving that, look, Anubhav, the first thing that you do as soon as you land is you make sure that you take the cash out and keep it in a safe place, right? And carry maybe $100 with you as opposed to $2,500. I said, that's fine. Even while she's giving me her parting hug and parting kiss and everything, she's just saying, look, Anubhav, please remember that you have to keep the money back, right? I land in New York, and I still had all $2,500. I land about 4 p.m. A friend of mine was still there, hits me up, says, you want to go out tonight? I said, yeah, let's go out tonight, right? I take the wallet with me with all $2,500 in cash. In college, right, junior year, I was still used to drinking a lot of beer. Like I used to get drunk on IPAs. That's all I used to drink. That night, we were drinking bourbon, right? And I think it was my first experience drinking bourbon, but I was so used to drinking beer that I started drinking bourbon like I was drinking beer, right? And I was trying to be cool like fucking Charlie Sheen, you know. And 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 we go out. What happened was I was still fine when we left, but for some reason, since I was like chugging bourbon so quickly, it quite literally went from a 0 to 100, right? And then I have absolutely no idea what happened the rest of the night. The following morning, or perhaps the following afternoon, I wake up, right? I get a mini heart attack because I'm like, where the fuck am I? And do I have my wallet with me? And I could not find my wallet. I found my passport with me. I had my passport in my pocket because like an idiot, I used to carry my passport as my form of identification. I had my passport, but I lost my wallet.
Never found, right?
And this first night in New York City.
I hope whoever got that $2,500, like, you know, deserved it. Like somebody that needed it.
Hopefully.
It was probably like
Chris bills as well. That's what hurts more. Yeah. And my mom still doesn't know the story. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a good welcome to America.
Yeah. In fact, even before getting to New York, like an absolute rookie. So it was my friend and I who were actually thinking of getting an apartment together in New York City, and we fell for this very obvious scam where we ended up wiring this security deposit to some prince who was probably sitting in Nigeria, with due respect to Nigerians, and ended up losing 1 month's security deposit, and ended up losing money that was equivalent to 1 month security deposit before we got to New York City.
Yeah,
rookie mistake.
What was that website you used to use? There was like an Indian website that you.
I remember that.
Sulekha.com, the very famous Sulekha.com. I've probably been like the biggest customer for Sulekha.com. Biggest customer.
I never understood that because that one place I went to when you were living at Curry Hill was like a textile lady, right?
That was through Sulekha.com as well. That was through.
Yeah, you ended up textiles.
Textiles, exactly. You ended up. She used to feed me, but she was nice, like a grandma, you know, Indian
and she
as well.
always tried to find you a nice wife.
But towards the end, we had like a falling out. So,
no.
so that's why. Or in other words, a falling out is like a euphemism for I got kicked out.
What did you do?
I have no idea.
Though. You tried to stay.
Yeah,
I tried to stay. I think I tried to stay. Persuasive. I tried to stay, but I was at fault though. I mean, the pizza incident, a whole host of incidents, a whole comedy of errors. But then I ended up using Sulekha.com to find the next apartment as well. Yeah, but all cash transactions, right? So you end up paying no tax. It's completely unofficial, under the table, and you can just quickly get it done. No broker fees, nothing, no middleman, nothing. It's as smooth as silk doing these deals through Sulekha.com.
Yeah, I feel like I worry about that. Like, I don't know, like New York, like now, not to bring up COVID again, but like New York for all those kind of like smaller, not just paying your rent in cash, but like all those small restaurants that are like cash only and stuff like that, like what they're doing now. I worry about it.
Yeah. Speaking of restaurants, look, we have a question from Ishmeet. He says, best places to eat in downtown NYC. What do you guys reckon?
Ooh.
I feel like I don't remember.
It's an Italian place. It's called, I think it's Il Corallo Trattoria, I think is the name.
Mexican.
In Soho. It's Italian. And it's one of the few places, Anubhav, I hope you're not too famous here because it's one of the few places that doesn't have a line usually. So
I've heard of the place. It definitely rings a bell. I'm not sure if I've been there though.
It's a small little, I mean, every restaurant in New York is small, but this one's a small little Italian place. They have really great pastas, good price, no line, reliable, and they have wine, lots of wine. So I think that's one of my favorites. There's so many good sushi places. If you're in New York, you have to get omakase, which is the style of sushi. It's very pricey, but you sit at like the sushi bar and the chef like feeds you one sushi at a time, and you better enjoy those because each one of them will cost you an arm and a leg, but very, very good. Yeah, I think that's kind of my favorite things to eat in New York.
I'll tell you my favorite. Guess. Hazard a guess.
Dollar pizza.
Is it not Taco Bell?
That's a good guess. That's a good guess. both good guesses. The favorite food that I've had in New York City, in New York, not New York City, by far, Kathryn's house for Thanksgiving.
No, that's funny because my mom was like, I was telling her about this yesterday, and she was literally like, "Oh my God, my vegetarian food was so bad. I think about it all the time. Like, I feel so guilty that I served him such terrible vegetarian food." And I'm like, I don't think it was that bad because I mean, like, you know, we eat vegetables in my house. We're not like I don't know. I don't remember it being bad, but I guess she made you like a specific dish too because she was like worried that there wouldn't be enough like just on sides, and she's very worried that it was really bad. So
no, I loved it. Look, I'm just not just saying this for the sake of saying this, not just being kind for the sake of being kind, but honestly, it was like delicious. It was delectable. I loved every bit of it. Plus the wine with it as well. I think complemented the food beautifully. So overall, very good. It was my first time actually at an American household for Thanksgiving. So that's why I feel that was definitely one of the highlights, I would say, you know, of my 7 years in America. So I look back at that fondly.
It was a fun time. Definitely always a lot of wine at my house with my parents. And then we just put you back on the train and you had to work the next day, which was kind of sad.
The last train as well, I think. The last train. I still remember you got like an Uber for me and then took the last train, then got to work the next day. But I was feeling fine though. I still remember the setting at the dining table. It was me right here. Then you sitting at one head of the table, your father right opposite you, then auntie to my side adjacent to me, and then I had Mike opposite me, right?
Yeah, they really enjoyed that. They liked that. Like you added some interesting conversation, you know, like we don't, you know, some good perspective. Like I don't even know. Well, first of all, it's usually just the four of us at Thanksgiving, so it's always good to have somebody new. But yeah, my family still talks about it. They really liked having you. So
which year was that? 2016 or 2017? I think 2016, right?
I think it might have been 2016. Yeah.
2016.
That was our first Thanksgiving in New York.
First Thanksgiving in New York.
Yeah, because I think I wasn't home for like I went to like Belize the next 2017. Yeah. So yeah, I was 2016. Yeah, it was right.
And definitely not trying to stroke my own ego or blow my own trumpet here, but rumor has it that since 2016, Thanksgiving at the Zissou household has not been the same. It
has not. You're right. I didn't even. Yeah, it's just not the same. You know.
I'm kidding. Very good question. Are you veg or non-veg, Anubhav? Do you guys know the secret?
What's the secret?
You shared the secret a little bit at the beginning.
I've been eating a fair bit of meat recently. I absolutely
really?
No way.
Wow.
So next time I come for Thanksgiving, you know, your mom won't have to do any of this separate cooking just for me. You know, I'll be part of the family.
How did that transition go?
Very smooth. I started with eggs. And
were you fully vegan? Because you eat.
I wasn't vegan.
Yeah.
Vegetarian. So I used to eat cheese, drink milk.
Yeah. But you eggs? You hadn't had eggs?
Never had eggs, but I used to have eggs in pastries and cakes though. So it was funny.
Okay.
But never had eggs when I could actually see the egg. But started eating eggs. I love eggs. I still love eggs. Eggs, I think, it's one item, very nutritious, but at the same time, very tasty as well. You know, there are very few. And at the same time, low in terms of carbohydrates.
Right, yeah.
So love eggs. From eggs, tried chicken. From chicken, tried beef, I think. Tried fish as well. And since then, the world's been my oyster.
What's your favorite? Favorite meat and favorite way to eat the meat?
Yeah.
So I won't say I'm that well versed. So I'm definitely not a veteran when it comes to eating. But I love my chicken. Absolutely love my chicken.
Interesting.
Yeah. I absolutely love my chicken. Yeah. Eggs are also nice though.
Yeah. How do you like to cook your chicken? Or are you cooking chicken? Or are you? Yeah. Okay. I like knew one.
Literally.
I can't be cooking chicken here in my household because my mom still doesn't know that I consume all of these.
Wow. Two secrets. Products. I really hope your mom's not watching.
I really hope as well. You know, really
your mom joins you on some of your videos, and I love it.
Sometimes, yeah, those are cameos. She doesn't show her face, so it's just her voice.
Yeah. I love the ones where she's yelling at you.
Oh.
Which one did you see the one? I think you saw the most recent one, didn't you?
I think so. Yeah. It was where she was yelling at you for something.
That was a good one. I enjoyed creating that one. Yeah. Did have Kathryn or Julie ever tried Indian cuisine? Of course.
Of course.
I was about to say, when we're talking about restaurants, I was about to bring up Punjabi Deli.
Oh, don't
Incredible.
let me forget about
Which
that.
which place is this?
awesome.
Which place is this? Tell me more about this
So,
place.
and near my second apartment in New York, down the street, there was this little deli called Punjabi Deli,
Okay.
which was like so small. It was like the size of my kitchen, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you walk in there and there's like a refrigerator and it has like all these random foods, and you just go and like tell them, I want like this, and that, and they put it in like a little plastic thing and put it in the microwave. And then they give it to you and you stand there and you eat it, and it's awesome. But they're open 24 hours a day, so they're all the time. I used to actually go there. I used to go there after a night of drinking, but I would also go there at 4 a.m. before my flights on Monday morning. I would take this very pungent food into the like Uber on my way to the airport. And sometimes I would take it through security with me. But it was so good. And the guys there, they loved KZ and I, because we would always show up there at like 3 a.m. and we wouldn't really know what anything was called. We would just kind of point at stuff, and then they would make fun of us for being drunk.
Yeah, they thought it was
After we discovered Punjabi Deli, our nightly slices of pizza started getting replaced with these little plastic packages.
Are you serious?
Punjabi Deli.
I don't think nothing can replace those 99-cent pizza slices.
You have it at
Absolutely
Punjabi
nothing.
Deli.
Yeah, Punjabi Deli is incredible.
Really, even
Yeah.
at
I mean,
look,
maybe
look,
what wouldn't be
I
incredible.
mean, I discovered it after you left.
come to think of it, like at 3 o'clock in the morning when you're absolutely sloshed, like Indian food would taste really bloody good, really good. Come to think of it.
It did.
Those guys were
Yeah.
very, 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 very nice to KZ and I. Too.
Yeah, they were.
Almost too much though.
Yeah, I feel like anytime like someone, like any like male friend or your boyfriend was with us, they'd be like, "These guys are like too nice to you." That's okay though.
It's okay.
Would
It's part of the fun.
Yeah.
Would they give you hefty discounts?
I don't think they could.
Yeah.
It was so cheap. Like literally,
Yeah.
you go in there with like a whole meal of stuff with leftovers, and it's like $5.
It's so good.
I see.
I mean, like,
look,
they
but
don't eat it.
but I do remember, Julie, you take me to this one place. I think this is like a Saturday, right? 2 p.m., 3 p.m. You weren't too far away from where I was living, right? In Curry Hill.
Yeah.
I think it was like a 15-minute walk from my place. Yeah. So I still remember we ended up meeting midway somewhere at some restaurant, and there was this one flight of stairs that went downstairs to a restaurant. And it was an Indian/Pakistani place, like one of those.
Yes.
Is that
We
the
went
same
for
place?
lunch.
We went for lunch, remember? So is that the same
Yeah.
place or is that a different place?
No. This is a different place. That was a real restaurant. That one had like a counter, and like it looked like the one you and I went to, it looked like they had a kitchen. This Punjabi Deli place, no kitchen, no anything. I mean, they might have like a tiny kitchen, but I don't know. But it's so small. Like you could like if we had a group of us go in of like 4 or 5 people, like we would be the entire store.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And then they also had, so it was like a deli, kind of like how New York delis, like they have like a counter with food, but then they also sell like snacks and stuff. Like Punjabi Deli had a lot of like South Asian snacks and sauces and like random little stuff like that. So like one wall was like all of the snack grocery kind of stuff, and then the other wall was like a refrigerator that they just scooped food out and put it on like a styrofoam or plastic little bowl for you. They also had chai. It was the only place that I could get a good cup of chai.
Understood. But those are like those, I don't know, like even though these places might seem like very small on paper, right? These are like the experiences you tend to remember.
Oh, that was my
Like those-
favorite place.
Those beautiful gestures by those people, those encounters that you used to have, at 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever, at like
Yes.
4 o'clock in the morning, right before you take your flight. I think those are like the moments you remember as well in New York in so many ways, right?
Oh yeah, there was also an empanada place that had that was like down the street from me. It was 24 hours. And again, empanadas are not usually something that people eat at like 4 or 5 in the morning, but it was what I ate.
Yeah,
and I also had a couple of times where the Uber driver would tell me to stop eating because it would make the car.
Oh, are you serious?
Those are, I mean, empanadas and like Punjabi Deli are all like
they're very pungent. I definitely like very flavorful foods, and it's oftentimes not what people eat for breakfast, but you know, I love it.
What was your favorite? Abhinav's asking us, what was your favorite dish at Punjabi Deli?
Honestly, I couldn't even name them. They weren't even, there was no menu. There was no anything. They just had like these buckets of food. And they would have, I remember like they had like eggplant curry. It was vegetarian. So then they had eggplant curry. They had like chickpeas. The chickpeas were really good. It was like chickpeas with like, it was like a chickpea curry. But I could not tell you a single dish that I had.
Yeah,
there.
it would just be like an open thing, and they just like put it all, and then like put a bunch of
bucket. And then like sometimes they would ask me if I wanted onions, and they would throw the onions on there for free. And then sometimes I would ask them for onions, and they would look at me like they didn't serve onions.
It was not consistent. Yeah, it was literally just
I always got the yogurt on top. But
the yogurt was so good.
That's good, right?
Yeah, sometimes they would charge me for it, and sometimes they wouldn't. So I never really figured out if I was supposed to pay for the yogurt.
Yeah, no idea. Yeah, they could have, honestly, like at that point, they could have just been like, told us whatever price, and we would have been like, all right, yeah, whatever. No idea. Yeah,
contributing to the local economy is what I like.
And speaking of eating and drinking, Matt here asking us a question: what do people do in New York besides eat, drink, and work?
Nothing.
I mean, to be completely honest, I don't know. Like, especially when you're first starting out in New York City, right? Of course, most people I would say have like fairly frantic, fairly busy jobs. So it's fast paced, right? I mean, it's very extreme lifestyle, sort of similar to what it was like in college at Georgia Tech. You know, where you're working really hard during the week, but at the same time you're going absolutely ham during the weekend. In many ways, New York also felt that way, especially like the first couple of years coming out of college. And I keep saying, I still remember my first ever description of New York City, right? It's a city that thrills but kills.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
That's New York. You know, it's like a Ferris wheel. So it takes you on a high, but that high is followed by a very inevitable and equally steep fall.
Yeah.
That comes right after it. And I think it's through those falls that you those falls are humbling experiences. Like, you know, whenever you feel that you're a big swinging dick, you're flying too high in New York City and you've made it, that's when New York City clips your wings and you fall back down to the ground.
Right. Yeah, I mean, New York was so much fun, but it was definitely tiring. So after a couple of years there, I mean, I'm so happy that I went and kind of experienced that lifestyle. I really don't think there's anywhere else in the world that can give the same experience as New York. But after a couple of years there, I was tired. It's very, very tiring. It's exactly like you said, the highs are really high, but then the lows are really low. And simple things are really difficult, like trying to find a good doctor. It's like some of the best doctors in the world are in New York, but for some reason, it's so difficult to find them. Like you end up going to like 5 different doctors before you find one that doesn't treat you like a, I don't know.
Yeah,
like a country or something. Yeah,
that's like added, like that's already hard, like getting out of college and setting all that stuff up, but it's like harder there too.
I used to get my hair cut in Atlanta because trying to find, there's so many like haircutting places in New York. It's like, how do you figure out which one's good? It's just that whole process of, and this was like restaurants. Every time you want to go to a restaurant, it's like you're in the like most dense city of like restaurants and bars. And yet you and your friends go back and forth for like hours trying to figure out where to meet up tonight. It's like, it's so tiring to just figure
that's the tyranny of choice, you know, buyer's remorse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
as they call it.
Now, I mean, if you live in a city that's not like that, it's like you go to the same couple places and you know that's there and you're happy with it. You have a good time with your friends. I mean, that's what really matters at the end of the day is who you're there with and the conversations you have, not, you know, what fancy wine did I have or what crazy ethnic food I got to try or whatever. That's not really the point of eating out or going out to bars. It's really getting to know your friends and all that.
Yeah.
But
Speaking of haircuts, I found this one place in Chinatown, which was fairly reasonable. This was like $10 or something. So it used to be like a fairly short walk from the office. So I used to finish office sometimes, get to the place early around 7 p.m. And there was this one guy who used to cut my hair. Back then I used to wear glasses, not lenses, right?
You also have to tell the story of when your glasses broke and you went to Chinatown.
When did that happen?
Your glasses broke and you found some dude in Chinatown to fix them for you.
Oh, right. For free as well.
Yeah.
As well. Right. Absolute legend, that guy. Absolute legend. Yeah. I have some sort of history with Chinatown, good history. But ended up finding this place, right? This haircutting place. And I used to wear glasses. So of course, while you're getting a haircut, you take your glasses off, right? Mm-hmm. Those guys weren't quite the best like English speakers. So I'm not quite sure how much they would comprehend, in terms of the instructions that I'm giving them, in terms of what kind of haircut I want. So I used to go to them with a picture that, look, this is what I want to be like, right? And they used to just nod their head. Of course, it used to be a very nerve-wracking experience for me because I don't quite know what the output will look like, right? Especially when you've taken your glasses off. You have absolutely no idea what is happening to your hair. Absolutely no idea what is happening to your hair. And the most nerve-wracking moment of the haircut is when that guy tells you, sir, done. And that's when you're like, okay, should I pick up my glasses? He's like, yeah, go for it. You pick up your glasses and you're about to put them on and you don't know what kind of surprise you're in for. It could be absolutely horrible or it could be really good. But more often than not, especially given the price, I think like $10 or $12 or something with tip, that Chinatown place definitely did like a commendable job to my hair.
Chinatown was awesome. You find anything in Chinatown.
Yeah. You never lived there, did you?
I did not live in Chinatown. I lived on Houston Street. It was like 15 minutes or so walking.
Walking, right?
Not even like there was some edge of Chinatown was only like 10 minutes away. So that was awesome.
Didn't you do your taxes in Chinatown too?
I did, $50. Yes, $50. Probably questionable accounting practices, but that's what you get for $50. Like I barely spoke English, and I was like, "Can you do taxes if you can't read it?" So that was. Oh, well.
So there's a question from Sasha. I think she wants us to talk about subways in NYC. I think, Casey, you're the best person to be speaking about
NYC.
Tell us about subways in NYC, not just the back end and the engineering, but your experiences inside subways as well.
Well, I like public transit a lot. So I don't like living in LA where there's not public transit. As I mentioned, I hate driving, but I also worked for the MTA when I was in New York. Not specifically the subway. I was like the commuter rail that goes north. And it's like weird because we shit on the subway so much, even like working there, you're like, wow, this is pretty crappy. And then like when you are working there, you're like, wow, this is even like less controlled than I thought it was. Like it's one of those things, like, I get worried about taking the train. But I still think it's like the best like public transportation in America, at least. So it's like kind of like, I mean, you can complain about all you want, but you don't have it anywhere. I think that, I obviously miss it, and it's kind of interesting now because I feel like less people are taking it, and they don't have like they always don't have enough money, but they really don't have enough money now, and it's like kind of worrisome. But I have some friends that still like are working for the MTA, and they started like sanitizing the cars because of COVID, and all my friends over there were like, why haven't we already been doing this? So, I think the subway, I don't know. I feel like I miss having that, even just like the commuter rail that goes like outside of the city, because even like now, so I live here, and then my like family here in California is like a 40-minute drive, and I'm like, why isn't there just like a train? Like in New York, you can get on the train and go like way out into the suburbs, like as far as you want, into New Jersey, Connecticut, Long Island. But here it's just like you just have to drive. So I definitely miss it. Don't really miss working there, but I miss my friends there because it was like definitely a fun place to work. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have some thoughts on the subway in New York. But Julie, you first.
Oh, I was just going to say, going from where I grew up, we didn't have like a subway system really that could get you anywhere reasonable. So going to New York was awesome. I never really realized that you could get places without a car. And I tried to, when I was living there, like it was awesome. I tell everybody, you know, I love not having a car. You don't got to like worry about where to park it. You don't have to pay for parking. You don't got to worry about parking it somewhere and someone hitting it, opening the door into your car or something like that. But then I moved back to Atlanta where, again, we don't have great public transportation. And I'm like, how did I ever live without a car? Like, how did I go to the grocery store? And then you kind of realize that, like, when you have space, like when you have a car to like move stuff around for you, and like when you have a bigger apartment, you just like buy so much more stuff. And like you start to realize like a lot of it you didn't need. Like when I was in New York, like I wouldn't go to Costco and buy like huge things of like chips just because they were cheap or something. Like you buy what you need, and then, you know, every thing that you get, you have to like work for it because you gotta carry it back to your apartment, up the stairs. I was on like the 4th floor, so it was like you gotta carry all that shit up, and then you know, then you really worked for those chips.
Yeah, I feel like even like when I go to other cities, like, well, not that I can go anymore, but back before COVID, when we could travel, like I'd be in other, you know, very global, like New York-esque cities, you know, like Paris or like Tokyo, and like the subway there isn't 24/7. And I'm like such an asshole about it. I'm like, wow, like the subway isn't 24/7 here. and like you can really kind of go anywhere, like at any point in New York. Even like the commuter rails are all, you know, 24/7. Like there's like the 5 a.m. like drunk train out of Penn onto Long Island, and I definitely miss that, even if it's like a little bit questionable. And it is hard work, especially if you're just like having a long day and everybody's just packed in there, sweaty.
Then come a weird guy who smells.
come to Calcutta, subways 24/7. Come to Bombay, subways 24/7.
Perfect. India is the spot for me. Yeah.
New York-esque, as you called it. Yeah. But you're right. I mean, I always felt that the subways in New York definitely provided like a very unique spectacle to you. Just the experience of being inside a subway. Only because, you know, there's some like crazy personalities, some crazy people, crazy in a good way as well. You know, I mean, to each his own, to each your own. People have the courage to actually, you know, be completely themselves. You always felt that, you know, regardless of how crazily you might be dressed in a subway, there'll always be someone else who will outdo you, who will one-up you every single time. So I always felt that, you know, in the subway in New York City, you never quite felt conscious, only because there were unique characters and personalities all around you that way.
Yeah.
In so many ways, right?
You can be as weird as you want because you're definitely not the weird person. Yeah.
Exactly. As weird. And most of the people, like 9 out of 10 people, right? Apart from some people like me, would just like, you know, mind their own business. Whereas there's some people who would just like stare unabashedly. Yeah.
I think that's something I realized while I was living there as well. Like when I first got to New York, I was like, wow, everybody's dressed so well. Like I feel like I, you know, need to step it up when I go out to the bars, to the whatever. But then you realize no one cares. Like you could wear sweatpants and whatever, and no one cares. And you could wear something so nice, you could get so dressed up, no one's going to comment on it. Like no one else cares. So just New York is really a city where you just have to do what makes you happy, and you know, dress the way that you want to, and go do the things that you want to. Because if you get like too caught up in like what you think other people in New York are doing, like that's just going to be like a constant stressor for you. But New York is really a place where you can just do what you want.
Yeah, exactly. Which reminds me of this one tale related to the subway again. coming back from like a night out, right? Sometimes you're extremely hammered, but you're still being very ambitious. Instead of taking like an Uber or a taxi, like, I can still take the subway, I can take the economical or the frugal option. So that was me, especially during my formative days in New York, right? So I am coming back from a party, Lower East Side, right? I take the subway instead of taking a taxi or an Uber. And the next thing I know, I wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning in fucking Narnia. uh, but when you do end up waking up and people can tell, people at 7 o'clock in the morning, people who might be going to work or anyone, people who might be coming back from like say an overnight work shift, they won't really care as such, because people have had their rough moments in New York City. Everyone's been there, done that, gone through those experiences. So, you aren't quite unique in your experience that way, because someone has had, or most people have had pretty terrible experiences, pretty unique experiences that way.
Yeah. I always feel like the Instagram account, like Subway Creatures. I always feel like
I haven't come across that.
That's messed up because just let them be. Like, don't put it. It's always funny, and I'm always like, oh man, I miss New York and all this crazy shit. But just let them. We've all had weird things happen, or been weird, or like been embarrassing. So don't put them on blast. Just leave them alone.
Have the two of you featured on that Instagram account?
No, and I hope to never be.
will that be a feather in your cap?
That could have been. Like, I've witnessed it, not been a part of it though, but yeah.
Got it. So when are we doing a reunion in New York? As soon as COVID's over?
Whenever you tell us to, Anubhav, we'll be there.
I'm actually thinking of, seriously, in all seriousness, I'm actually thinking of making a visit to the US sometime in May of 2021.
Okay.
So mark your calendars right now.
It's so hard to
come to California. I'll be there in California by then.
Yeah.
I'll do a US trip. I'll go all over the US wherever there's demand. And I think it should be fun. Be fun. Because I haven't. Hopefully what?
Like, it's all, the COVID situation is better.
Yeah.
It's hard to plan.
Daisy and I will take you on Highway 1.
Yeah.
What is Highway 1?
American experience.
We can have a road trip.
Yeah.
I see. But that'll be fun if that ends up happening. But before that, or if not before that, maybe after that, you guys should definitely consider making a trip to India. There are lots of followers and fans of both Julie as well as Kathryn. I'm pretty sure after this chat, Julie, Kathryn, you're going to be inundated with requests on LinkedIn asking you for advice on consulting and investment banking. So please do cater to all the requests that come your way.
Sounds good. We'll send them videos from you. If they have any questions, we'll just keep sending them on a box.
Brilliant. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, KZ. Hopefully the first of many more conversations in the future. Good start. And look forward to many such chats.
Sounds good.
Hi, it's good to see you.
For having us, Anubhav. This was fun.
This was fun.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye.